Well, hello. Glad to have you here today, as this is the session number 3 of our Lenten study for 2021. And we're glad that you can be here with us as we go through this today. We're continuing to go through the book and getting some ideas. And today it's talking about running out of gas. What do we do when we run out of gas? Running out of gas in your car, what could be worse? All it takes to run out of gas once, and you make sure you don't do it again, right? Well, hopefully. Now, the author of the book says that women see the empty gas tank as an inconvenience. Men see it as the ultimate failure. Now, I can remember running out of gas 3 times in my 50-some years of driving. Once when I was in high school, a gas gauge said it had a little bit of gas left, but evidently that vehicle, when you got down to about 1/8 of a tank, it was out. So I learned that pretty quick. And it was good because I was able to get gas fairly easily that time. The next time I ran out of gas is when I had my first job out of college. I was coming back from visiting Susan in Manhattan, and the truck that I was driving had 3 tanks. So I thought, oh, surely I wouldn't run out of gas in all 3 tanks. But I did. So I was stuck on Highway 71 between, south of Kansas City, north of Carthage, out by Rich Hill, Missouri. It was about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and I was stuck on the side of the road. And not one car stopped to help. I even saw the highway patrol drive by several times. Nobody stopped. So I was there all night, but in the morning I was able to walk a few miles down the road to the local gas station, and fortunately the guy at the gas station helped me out, and I was able to get going again. And the last time I ran out of gas was, it was the first job I had, but I was driving a feed truck to pick up some leftover feed from a turkey farm, and on the way back, the truck ran out of gas. Now, in my defense, the gas gauge on the truck didn't work, and I didn't realize it was that close to running out of gas. Anyway, I haven't run out of gas since, so that's a good thing. But what do we do when we run out of gas? We can try to start the car again, thinking, if we just keep running, keep turning it over, eventually it'll start. Well, that won't work. We can stare at the gas gauge, and maybe if we stare at it long enough, it'll change. Well, that won't work either. We could blame somebody else for a problem. Well, if they had put gas in the car, and we can even yell at the car. Say, well, it's the car's fault. It shouldn't have run out of gas in the first place. Boy. And ultimately, a lot of times it's our own fault. And we have nobody to blame but ourselves. And we can run out of gas not just in our cars, but we can run out of gas in life, right? There are times when we need to get our tank filled, we might say. And God can help us with that. Now, right now, with this whole coronavirus thing, it takes a lot of gas out of our tank right now. There are times we're getting tired of this whole thing, and there's times when we wish it would be over. Things can get back to the way they were before. We need to find a way to put more gas in our tank. In Mark chapter 6, we read about the feeding of the 5,000. And it's a story that a lot of us know fairly well, that Jesus had gone out to a remote place teaching the people, and it was getting late in the day, and What are they going to do? So the disciples come to Jesus and say, Lord, send the people away. Have them go get some more food. They hadn't run out of gas. They'd run out of food. So what do the disciples do? Well, they come to Jesus. Do they come to Jesus and ask him to handle this food situation? No, they tell him, well, let's see what it says. It says, verse 35, 36, when it grew late, his disciples came to him and said, this is a deserted place, and the hour is now very late. Send them away so that they may go into the surrounding country and villages and buy something for themselves to eat. They don't want to deal with it. Send them away. Well, they just want to get rid of the people. But what does Jesus do? Jesus says, you give them something to eat. And the disciples say, well, are we going to buy 200 denarii worth of bread just to give them something to eat? You don't want us to spend our money to do this? The disciples see problems. It's late, they're in a deserted place, and they don't have enough money. And of course we know the rest of the story, that Jesus takes says, well, what have you got? Well, I've got a couple fish and a few loaves of bread. Jesus says, tell the people to sit down. He breaks it, blesses it, and they have more than enough food to feed all the people. The disciples had seen Jesus perform many miracles before this. He'd healed the sick, he'd cast out demons, he walked on water, he brought sight to the blind. But yet they didn't come to him and say, Jesus, solve this problem. They said, send the people away. And we too have our times when we run out of gas or food or ideas and we don't see a solution. But God can help us. Is your problem too large? Well, Ephesians 3:20 says, now to him who is by the power at work within us is able to accomplish abundantly far more than we ask or imagine. Is your need too great? Well, 2 Corinthians 9:8 says, and God is able to provide you with every blessing in abundance, so that by always having enough of everything, you may share abundantly in every good work. Is your temptation too severe? Well, Hebrews 2:18 says, because he himself was tested by what he suffered, he is able to help those who are being tested. Are your sins too numerous? Hebrews 7:25 says, consequently, he is able for all time to save those who approach God through him, since he always lives to make intercession for them. Is your future too frightening? Jude 1:24. Now to him who is able to keep you from falling, and to make you stand without blemish in the presence of his glory with rejoicing. Is your enemy too strong? Philippians 3:21. He will transform the body of our humiliation, that it may be conformed to the body of his glory, by the power that also enables him to make all things subject to himself. You know, when we run out of gas, our first thought is, how do I get to a gas pump? When we have problems, we need to think, how can we get our problems to Jesus? If we look at the feeding of the 5,000 in John 6, we find there was a little boy that had 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. He gave what he had. He gave it to Jesus, who took care of the rest. And we can give our problems to Jesus too, and let him take care of it for us. Now it's time for the questions that come with all this. Number one, the mistake of the disciples was not that they calculated the problem, but that they calculated without Christ. In giving Jesus no chance, they gave their day no chance. They reserved the table for 12 at the restaurant of the rotten day. So describe a time when you reserved a table at the restaurant of the rotten day. Well, I remember back when our kids were young, we didn't have a lot of money. And it came up about, April. We know what happens on April 15th. Well, the taxes were due. Not only were the taxes due, my car insurance was due, the car payment was due, and we had medical bills to pay. Where was the money going to come from? Well, in the end, it did work out. At the moment, it seemed like there wasn't any answer, but we ended up taking out a loan, found a way to get the money, and we, eventually paid the loan off. So, yes, it worked out. How can Christ make a difference for you in whatever difficulties you're facing right now? How can Christ make a difference for you in whatever difficulties you're facing right now? Well, right now, I have to say things are going pretty good. We just need to be like that little boy and give the bread and the fish or whatever we have to Jesus and let him take care of it. God is able to accomplish, provide, help, save, keep, subdue. He's able to do what you can't. He already has a plan. Do you believe that God already has a plan to help and provide for you? And if not, why? And if so, how does your belief change the way you feel? Well, my answer is yes, God does provide. Maybe not in the way we want, but in the way we need. It makes me have comfort and feel at peace. What does God do for you that you can't do for yourself? There's a lot of things. God gives me peace of mind that I wouldn't have on my own. I can't save myself. God does that for me. God also gives us hope that we might not have on our own as well. My first thought when I ran out of gas when I was I'll start over again on that one again. My first thought when I ran out of fuel was, how can I get this car to a gas pump? Your first thought when you have a problem should be, how can I get the problem to Jesus? How do you approach problems in your everyday life? Well, we might try to find a solution on our own, and then we pray about it. Maybe we should do the praying first, but, human nature. But, yes, we go to God, ask for help. What does it mean for you to give your problems to Jesus, and how can you do this better in practice? As that movie Frozen says, let it go. Right? Give more of it over to Jesus all the time. Let him have the problems. Give them over to him and let him deal with them. You're going to run out of gas. We all do. Next time the needle sits on the wrong side of empty, remember, the one who fed the crowds is only a prayer away. Tell how someone you know personally saw the miraculous hand of Jesus doing what that person could not do. Well, I guess I kind of go back again to a friend of mine that's a recovering alcoholic. He couldn't stop drinking on his own. It was only when he gave his life to Jesus that he was able to stop drinking. Do you think Jesus wants to work in your life as he worked in the lives of the disciples? He may not do the same thing as the disciples did, but we will do some amazing things. We have more knowledge and more technology and medical resources that we can do things with that they didn't have back then, but we're still able to do things. But a lot of times we do things that are beyond our own capabilities because Jesus helps us. Then if we read Mark 6:30 to 44, Here's some things that go along with that. What instructions did Jesus give his exhausted disciples in verse 31? And why did he give them this instruction? Well, he told them, come away to a deserted place all by yourselves and rest a while. For many were coming and going, and they had no leisure even to eat. They needed to gas up. And sometimes we, need some time just to replenish the fuel tank, right? How did Jesus react to the crowds that tried to circumvent his instructions to his disciples? Well, he saw the crowd and he had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. He began to teach them many things. He cared about their needs. What was the disciples' solution to the problem they faced in verse 35 and 36? Well, they said, this is a deserted place and the hour is very late. Send them away so that they may go into the surrounding country and villages and buy something for themselves. They didn't see a solution. How did Jesus respond to their suggestion in verse 37? He told them, you give them something to eat. How did the disciples react to these instructions? I want to know, how in the world are we going to do that? It would take, 200 denarii worth of bread. That's a lot of money. How did Jesus involve his disciples in the solution? Verse 41. By taking the loaves and the fish, and he looked up to heaven, blessed and broke the loaves, and gave his disciples and to set before the people. And he divided the fish among them all. In your opinion, what did Jesus accomplish through this miracle? He was able to show the disciples that nothing is impossible with God. He knows our needs, and he will provide. Then we're to read 2 Corinthians 1, 8 to 11. What did Paul want his friends to know about his circumstances from verse 8? We do not want you to be unaware, brothers and sisters, of the affliction we experienced in Asia, where we so utterly, unbearably crushed that we despaired for life itself. What does Paul mean by deadly peril in verse 10? Their life was in danger, and they thought that they would die, but God rescued them. What hope of the future did Paul have in verse 10? He who rescued us from the deadly peril will continue to rescue us. On him we have set our hope that he will rescue us again. God would provide, if not for his life, in this life, but also in the next. To whom did Paul look for assistance? Verse 11. He had the prayers of many. He not only had help from God, but others were praying as well. Well, that comes to the end of this particular session of the study. We hope that this helps, and we know that we all at times run out of gas and we have to fill the tank, but we can look to God to help us as we, at times, we can fill that tank by going to God in prayer, by reading what he has to say to us in the Bible, and by spending time in that way. Well, we hope to see you again. Thanks for coming.